Crocodiles are some of the most dangerous animals in the world, known for their stealth and incredible power. These ancient reptiles are relentless hunters who command both respect and fear. Many people have found themselves in dangerous situations after encountering these apex predators, often with disastrous results. In this episode, we look at the 5 most terrifying crocodile attacks ever recorded that you won't want to miss. Andrew Hurd was a 69-year-old experienced sailor and fisherman from Queensland, Australia. For over a decade, he had made annual trips to the Hinchinbrook Channel, where he enjoyed the serene beauty of nature while pursuing his love of fishing. Known for his skills on the water and his familiarity with the region's wildlife, Hurd was no stranger to the dangers of the Australian wilderness. His routine visits to Guyanda Creek near Hinchinbrook Island were a cherished tradition. However, in 2021, during what seemed like just another peaceful fishing trip, Hurd encountered a danger that would change everything: a massive saltwater crocodile lurking in the shadows. On February 11, 2021, Andrew Hurd set out for his fishing trip in his small fiberglass boat. The air was nice, and the calm waters of the Guyanda Creek made for a peaceful start to the day. The creek, surrounded by thick tropical wilderness, was home to many animals like dugongs, turtles, dingoes, and wallabies. Everything seemed quiet and serene, the perfect setting for a relaxing fishing trip. But hidden beneath the calm waters was a danger: saltwater crocodiles. They can live in both saltwater and freshwater, making them a serious threat in places like Guyanda Creek. While the area looked peaceful, the presence of these crocodiles always carried the risk of danger. As night fell, darkness covered Guyanda Creek with only stars lighting the sky. The peaceful quiet was broken by the sounds of animals moving around in the night. Andrew Hurd's small boat floated on the water, barely noticeable. Back home, his wife Erica started to worry. She usually heard from Andrew during his fishing trips, but this time the radio stayed silent. It was unusual and it made her feel uneasy. As the hours passed, Erica became more and more concerned. Andrew had been gone much longer than usual, and the silence was starting to feel ominous. Unable to shake off her growing fear, she called the authorities for help. At dawn, a search team arrived at the creek. What they found was disturbing. Andrew's boat was overturned, and it had clear signs of a crocodile attack. The calm creek now revealed a much darker reality. Andrew Hurd was missing, and all that remained was his damaged boat. The tragedy of what had happened was becoming clear. He had been taken by one of the dangerous creatures lurking in the waters. As the investigation continued, wildlife officers discovered 2 crocodiles, a huge 4.86-meter male and a smaller 2.85-meter female. When they examined the contents of the crocodile's stomachs, they found a grim truth: human remains, which were later confirmed to be Hurd's. Typically, crocodiles hunt alone, with the dominant males sharing their larger kills with females, especially during breeding season. But in Andrew Hurd's case, things were different. 2 crocodiles were involved in his death, something that had never been documented before. Tragically, this incident echoed a similar event just a few months later. In May, Kevin Darmody, a 65-year-old fisherman, disappeared while fishing in far north Queensland. His remains were also found inside a crocodile, marking another heartbreaking loss in the wilds of Australia. Bill Scott was a passionate fisherman with a deep love for nature and fishing. For over 20 years, he frequented the Billabong, a beautiful spot situated on the South Alligator River within the Kakadu National Park, Australia. Known for his adventurous spirit, Bill was an experienced boater and fisherman who enjoyed planning trips and exploring the vast wilderness of the Northern Territory. His enthusiasm for the great outdoors inspired his family, particularly his son Aaron, who often joined him on his adventures. On June 7, 2014, Bill Scott and his wife Rosalind traveled to Darwin, Australia, to start building at the Billabong, one of Bill's favorite places in the world. Bill enjoyed planning trips to new places and was skilled in boating, fishing, and navigating the bush with many years of experience. He understood both the beauty and dangers of nature. When Bill and Rosalind arrived at the Billabong, they were welcomed by their son Aaron and his wife Joanne. With their boats ready, Bill and Aaron were excited to go fishing. Kakadu National Park is a beautiful World Heritage Site, filled with a wide variety of plants and animals, including many rare and endangered species. However, some of these species have grown too large in numbers and have become a problem. Crocodiles are a major concern in Kakadu National Park, having taken over the waterways over time. Since hunting them was banned in 1972, their numbers have surged, leading some experts to believe that there may be too many crocodiles. Many even argue that both their size and population have increased significantly in the park. Bill Scott was well aware of the presence of crocodiles, especially with the changes brought by European colonization. He never underestimated the danger they posed. After breakfast and catching up with Aaron and Joanne, the family launched their boats around 10 a.m. to go fishing. They carefully scanned the water for any signs of crocodiles, and although they didn't see any, they remained alert near the water's edge. With boats suited for navigating the Billabong, they traveled about 3 miles from the stream to begin their fishing adventure. For the next 4 hours, they enjoyed fishing and chatting under the warm sun. Around 2 p.m., they decided it was time to head back to camp. After docking the boats, Aaron and Joanne carried a 60-liter water tank to the bank. Understanding the risk of crocodiles, the family worked quickly to fill it with water. Aaron stepped into the water, which was only knee-deep, to fill the tank, being careful to stay safe. After filling half the tank, he quickly got out and let the rest of the family finish the job. They worked together, taking turns passing buckets from Bill's boat to the shore. As they were about to fill the third bucket, Bill leaned over the side of his boat. Suddenly, the boat tipped. Rosalind noticed a ripple in the water at the same time. Before Bill could steady himself, a huge crocodile burst from the water and grabbed him by his left arm, shoulder, and chest. In seconds, Bill was pulled from the boat and dragged under the water. Rosalind and Joanne could only watch in shock as Aaron heard a splash and turned to see his father was gone. In panic, Aaron drove his boat around hoping his father would resurface, but there was no sign of him. Their cries for help went unanswered. Aaron hurried to a nearby resort to alert the authorities, while Rosalind and Joanne stayed behind, praying for a miracle. But when they saw Bill's body floating face down in the water, all hope was lost. Rosalind tried to start the boat but couldn't. She desperately rowed toward Bill's body, but by the time she reached it, the crocodile had pulled him under again. The search for Bill continued the next morning. By noon, Wade Rogers, a water policeman, shot a crocodile that matched the description of the one that attacked Bill. The crocodile was 15 feet long, a huge and dangerous animal. Rangers examined it and found Bill's remains inside its stomach. An investigation showed that crocodiles in the Northern Territory have become used to humans in boats and no longer fear them like they used to. This sad event, along with 3 others in 2014, made it the deadliest year on record, with 21 people killed by crocodiles in the Northern Territory since 1974. Sean McGuinness was a 47-year-old man living in Largo, Florida, who found himself in tough circumstances. Homeless for some time, he had been staying in a friend's basement for 8 years, but was eventually asked to leave due to conflict with his friend's family. Desperate to make a living, Sean turned to an unusual way of earning money, retrieving lost frisbees from lakes near disc golf courses and selling them back to players. Despite the challenges, Sean was resourceful and determined. He would often sneak into Taylor Lake at night when the park was closed to search for lost discs. He knew the risk involved, including the park's no swimming signs and the presence of dangerous wildlife like alligators, but his financial struggles left him with little choice. Sean's health was also declining. He had been diagnosed with a malignant tumor, and his illness added to the hardships he faced daily. On the morning of May 31, 2022, Sean McGuinness set out to Taylor Lake in Largo, Florida, to do what had become his routine: dive into the water in search of lost frisbees. Sean had been selling these discs for a few dollars each, scraping together enough to survive day by day. It was early, around 4 a.m., and the park was closed, making it the perfect time for him to work without being spotted by authorities. Sean had done this many times before, but this day was different. The pressure of his worsening financial situation and deteriorating health pushed him to take even greater risks. He was desperate to find more discs, so he ventured further into the lake than he normally would. The day started like any other for Sean, quiet, eerie, and dark. As he waded deeper, the water was cold, and the silence of the early morning made the atmosphere feel even more unsettling. The park would remain empty until it opened later in the day, leaving him alone with the stillness of the lake. After retrieving a few damaged discs near the shallow waters, Sean threw them to the shore and moved further into the deeper, darker parts of the lake, hoping to find more. His focus was on the frisbees, but little did he know that the lake was home to something far more dangerous. Taylor Lake had a reputation for housing large alligators, and Sean was unknowingly in their territory. At around 4:30 a.m., Sean heard a splash in the distance. At first, he thought it might have been a park ranger or an animal close to the shore. But as the sound grew nearer, his unease turned into fear. He scanned the water, only to spot two glowing eyes staring at him from the surface. The realization hit him like a wave. He was in the middle of the lake with an alligator nearby. Before he could react, the massive reptile swam up to him and lunged at his leg, sinking its teeth into his thigh. The pain was excruciating as the alligator's powerful jaws crushed bone and tore through flesh. John screamed for help, but there was no one around. The alligator, doing what it does best, began its death roll, spinning violently in the water to tear off Sean's leg. Despite his desperate struggle to escape, he was helpless. Another alligator soon joined in, grabbing Sean's arm in its jaws and ripping it from the body with brutal force. The attack turned into a feeding frenzy as more alligators were drawn to the commotion. They tore into his body, leaving him defenseless and in agonizing pain. With his limbs severed and his body broken, Sean eventually succumbed to his injuries, his lifeless form floating in the blood-stained water. It wasn't until hours later at around 8 a.m. that a passerby spotted Sean's remains. His mangled body, missing multiple limbs, was discovered floating near the shore. Authorities were called, and after a search, 2 of the alligators believed to be involved in the attack were captured and euthanized. When no one came forward to claim Sean's body for several hours after the attack, authorities had to use dental records the next day to identify him. His roommate was notified of his tragic death. It was the first deadly alligator attack in Florida since 2019, and the shocking news quickly spread across the country. Police began investigating the lack of safety measures at the park, especially since a similar incident happened in 2020, where another man was bitten by alligators while retrieving lost items from the same lake. It was also revealed that security had warned Sean not to enter the lake months earlier, but he continued to do so at night when the park was closed. Experts explained that his death was likely the result of a combination of factors. It was mating season for alligators in Florida, which made them more protective of their territory, and the darkness made them venture closer to shore, increasing the risk of encounters with people near the water. Officials hoped to find Sean's missing limbs so they could be buried with him, but all they found were a few bone fragments and pieces of cloth. Sean McGuinness had taken a fatal risk in his quest to survive, and on that tragic morning, the dangers of nature claimed his life. It was a brutal reminder of the unpredictability of the wild and the thin line between survival and peril when venturing into dangerous territory. Matthew Riggins was a 22-year-old man from Palm Bay, Florida, who had turned to a life of petty crime. Struggling to make ends meet, he resorted to burglary, hoping to support himself by stealing from homes in nearby communities. Despite his young age, Matthew had already chosen a dangerous path, one that would ultimately lead to his tragic demise. On the night of November 13, 2015, Matthew Riggins set out on what he believed would be a typical burglary job. Accompanied by a friend, the two headed to Barefoot Bay, a peaceful residential community in Brevard County, Florida. The area, known for its older population and holiday homes, seemed like an easy target for theft. The plan was simple: sneak in, take valuables, and disappear into the night. But things quickly went awry. Dressed in black and moving quietly through the streets, Matthew and his accomplice began scouting properties to burgle. However, their movements didn't go unnoticed. As Matthew and his friend walked up and down Tequesta Drive, residents began calling the police, reporting suspicious behavior. Locals believed that the men might be burglars. The police acted quickly, sending officers to the scene around 2 a.m. Since there had been recent burglaries in the area, law enforcement was determined to catch these two. They even deployed a helicopter and a canine unit to track them down. While patrolling the area, the police spotted the suspects on Royal Palm Boulevard, Knowing they had been seen, the men decided to split up, thinking it would increase their chances of getting away. As Matthew ran, he found a dark corner and hid. He called his girlfriend, telling her he was being chased and might not make it back that night. He planned to lay low until the search cooled off. That was the last time she heard from him. To escape the police dogs, Matthew made a desperate decision to head for the water. The Lake Barefoot Bay Pond was nearby. Although many freshwater bodies in Florida are home to alligators, that was likely the last thing on Matthew's mind in the chaos of the moment. Unfortunately, this decision would prove fatal. As the police searched the area with flashlights, Matthew rushed down to the water's edge and waded in. The cool water sent chills through him, and he crouched low behind some plants. His heart raced as he stared back toward the houses, adrenaline pumping from the chase. He believed the water would hide him from the dogs, thinking no one would expect him to be there. However, he was in even more danger than he realized. A predator silently lurking nearby just a few feet away. From his hiding spot, Matthew had no idea what lurked just beneath the water's surface. Only the alligator's nostrils and two shining eyes were visible, as the powerful tail propelled it through the murky depths. Matthew was completely unaware of the danger approaching. Alligators have a remarkable ability to sense their prey, even in dark, murky waters. They rely on sensitive pressure sensors in their snouts to pick up vibrations, which are more acute than human fingertips. This particular alligator was an impressive 11 feet long, and as soon as Matthew entered the water, it moved in for the kill. In a split second, the alligator lunged and seized Matthew by his legs. Initially, he thought it was a police dog and cried out in pain, desperately trying to escape. However, the alligator's strength was overwhelming. Although officers nearby heard his cries, they were unable to locate him in the dark and didn't realize who was in danger. As Matthew struggled to keep his head above water, he quickly began to tire. The alligator had clamped down on his legs with a jaw pressure exceeding 2,000 psi, making escape impossible. Within moments, he was dragged underwater, fighting for breath until he succumbed to the attack. The alligator continued to pull Matthew's lifeless body through the water. Alligators are opportunistic predators, typically consuming anything they can overpower in one bite, from birds and fish to small mammals like muskrats and nutria. They can even take down larger prey, such as deer and, on rare occasions, black bears. For bigger catches, they often drag their prey underwater and perform a death roll, ripping off manageable pieces to eat. Police in the area reported hearing yelling that night, but couldn't pinpoint where it was coming from. That night, officers didn't arrest him, and when Matthew didn't come home, his family became concerned. They reported him missing later that day. However, it took 10 days before his body was found floating in the murky pond waters. The body had been severely mauled and partially eaten, missing its legs and one arm. Nearby, an aggressive alligator was present, trying to attack divers as they approached and threatening them with its open jaws. It had claimed its prey and was now fiercely guarding it. When officials reported the aggressive alligator, the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission was summoned to the scene. Due to the threat the alligator posed to the public, they had to euthanize it. An expert trapper was brought in to capture and kill the animal. They confirmed they had the right alligator when they discovered human remains inside, including a hand and a foot, matching Matthew's injuries. It is believed that he drowned before the alligator partially consumed him, as this is typical behavior for alligators when dealing with larger prey. Riggins died from drowning, and bites were discovered along his legs and body that led investigators to determine he had been dragged underwater by the massive animal. Matthew's accomplice, who had been with him that night, was apprehended by police and questioned. He refused to provide any information, fearing it would connect him to the burglaries, and was ultimately released without charges. In the past decade, Florida has seen an average of 8 unprovoked alligator bites each year that required professional medical attention. Many pets have also fallen victim to these reptiles. Some people might argue that what happened to Matthew was karma for his actions, while others believe that no one deserves to endure such a horrific fate. Isabelle Von Jordan was a 23-year-old German student enjoying at Australia's Kakadu National Park. They were excited for a fun adventure, but things took a tragic turn when they encountered a saltwater crocodile. Crocodile attacks in northern Australia are a serious concern, Due to the prevalence of saltwater crocodiles in the region, Northern Australia's vast waterways and coastal areas provide ideal habitat for these apex predators, making encounters with humans a potential danger. Isabelle Von Jordan was a young woman from Germany who recently graduated in interior design. Known for her creative flair and passion for sustainable design, Isabel had gained recognition within the design community back home. Her trip to Australia was intended not only as a vacation, but also as a celebration of her academic achievements and a well-deserved break before starting her career. Accompanied by her 21-year-old sister, Valerie, the journey was meant to be a joyful exploration and an opportunity to create lasting memories. Alongside them were James Rothwell from Essex and Carmen Woolley, another German tourist. On the morning of October 20, 2002, Isabel and her sister set off for Kakadu National Park as part of an adventure tour organized by Gondwana Adventure Tours and Expeditions. The group, led by tour guide Glenn Robles, comprised of 9 clients. During the next 2 days, they swam at different spots, including Moline Rock Hole and Jim Jim Falls. Kakadu National Park, located in the Northern Territory of Australia, is renowned for its natural and cultural significance. It's one of the largest national parks in Australia, covering nearly 20,000 square kilometers of diverse landscapes, including wetlands, river, rocky escarpments, and lush forests. Visitors to Kakadu National Parks can explore its natural wonders through hiking trails, boat cruises, and guided tours, experiencing the unique beauty and cultural heritage that make this park a significant destination for both tourists and researchers alike. It was a quiet evening filled with laughter as Isabel and Valerie hung out with the rest of the tourists. On the evening of October 22nd, the group camped at a sandy billabong, a designated camping area. They had dinner around 9 p.m. Later, at about 10:30 p.m., Glenn suggested they could swim at a sandbar along Norlangi Creek, about 1.5 kilometers from the campsite. Despite signs warning about crocodiles in the area, some tourists expressed concern. Glenn, however, brushed off these worries, insisting that the waters were safe and only harmless freshwater crocodiles were present. He adamantly stated that no saltwater crocodiles were around, citing the long history of Aboriginal people swimming there as evidence of its safety. However, some tourists remained skeptical, despite his reassurances. Glenn went over the water and used his torch to shine on the surface, showing the weary tourists that there was really nothing lurking in the waters. The campers were finally satisfied with Glenn's explanation. After all, he'd been a guide there for 13 years already. At around 11 p.m., some of the campers, including Isabel and Valerie, entered the water. Glenn left the camp to meet with another guide from a nearby group, planning on inviting them for a swim. After swimming for a short while, Glenn left to contact another guide from Gondwana who was leading a different tour group nearby. As the campers floated in the serene waters of the sandy billabong, they chatted and laughed together. Suddenly it happened. The crocodile surged through the water with incredible speed, striking James, one of the tourists, in the leg like a freight train. However, it seemed disinterested in him. In a matter of seconds, the crocodile seized Isabel by the leg, dragging her down into the depths. Despite her desperate struggles to break free and swim to the surface, she was overpowered by the creature's mighty jaws. Initially, nobody noticed she was missing. The group thought it was a prank by one of the tourists. It took some time for the group to realize something was wrong. Some members remember hearing Isabel shout or yelp, but they thought it was just a playful noise. Another member felt something brush against her legs around the same time Isabel disappeared. But in the blink of an eye, she vanished without a trace. Someone else thought they saw a large creature swimming away. It gradually became clear that the crocodile had likely taken Isabel. They hurried to the shore and shone their flashlights into the water. What they saw was terrifying. The crocodile's eyes reflected the light, and they could see its big shape swimming on the water's surface. One of the group members was sent to find Glenn. They found him on the road with the other guide, and he returned to the scene. The police and park rangers were called for help. Authorities immediately searched for Isabel. At around 4 a.m., the park rangers found Isabel's badly mutilated body still in the mouth of the crocodile as it floated in the water. The rangers quickly killed the crocodile and retrieved Isabel's body. The crocodile was about 4.2 meters long and weighed around 400 kilograms, though it was in poor condition. After dawn, they returned to where they found the crocodile and retrieved Isabel's body. In the subsequent investigations, authorities discovered that Glenn acted irresponsibly. Glenn was supposed to be fully aware that large saltwater crocodiles could be found in the area of water. His decision to permit the group to swim there was incomprehensible, indefensible, and highly negligent. However, during the inquest, Glenn openly admitted his grave error in judgment in allowing the tour party to swim in that particular location. Glenn pleaded guilty and received a 3-year suspended prison sentence. The actions of the rangers and other Parks Australia staff involved in responding to the incident were commendable. They promptly notified the police and handled interactions with the surviving tour members with sensitivity and appropriateness. The crocodile was located and dealt with swiftly, despite the significant danger the rangers faced from the animal and others nearby. The recovery of the deceased body was possible due to the exceptional skills and knowledge of the rangers, especially Mr. Linder, who identified the crocodile's initial location and likely release of the body. Without Mr. Linder's expertise, a more challenging recovery process might have been required, potentially leading to further grief for the family. Thank you for watching. If you want to know more shocking animal attacks, simply click on the next video. Don't miss out. Hit the subscribe button for more terrifying stories. Until next time, stay safe.